We only have time for one more and then we'll have to conclude. One more story that shows that there were only a few Christians left is the story that is mentioned in Sahih al-Bukhari, and that is the story of the Emperor Heraclius. The Emperor Heraclius. The Emperor Heraclius was the emperor at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And unlike most politicians in the world, he was an intelligent and educated man. And he was a scholar. And he was trained in Christianity. And when the Prophet ﷺ wrote a letter to the emperors in the 8th and 9th year of the Hijrah, he wrote letters to the emperors. He wrote one to Heraclius, or to be more precise, he wrote one to the governor of Bahrain, who was the governor of Heraclius. And so it reached Heraclius, and Heraclius at that time was visiting Elia, which is Jerusalem. He was visiting Jerusalem. And so it was not supposed to get to him that fast. It was supposed to go to the governor, but he was in Jerusalem at the time. So when he read the letter, and the letter says that this is from Muhammad Rasulullah, Emperor of Rome, Aslim tuslim, accept Islam, you'll be safe. Aslim yu'tik Allahu ajraka marratain. Accept Islam, Allah will give you a double reward. And if you reject Islam, then you shall bear the penalty of your whole people, because you are their leader. So it was a give and take, i.e. carrot and stick, incentive and threat in the letter, that you have to accept Islam. And what is Islam? So the Prophet Heraclius said, there's a long story in Sahih Bukhari, again inshallah maybe one day we'll talk about it in more detail. Heraclius quizzed his viziers, are there any Arabs in town? They said yes. It just so happens that the caravan from Mecca, رحلة الشتاء والصيف, the caravan from Mecca is in Jerusalem now. Call them right now to the palace. Now, this is a trading caravan. You can imagine the souq and the emperor's palace, they're not thinking they're going to come to the palace. Immediately the Roman guards come to the souq and they march with the Quraysh to the palace. They're trembling. What did we do? What happened? And lo and behold, it is none other than Abu Sufyan. So Abu Sufyan gets to meet the Emperor of Rome. And Heraclius and Abu Sufyan have a long conversation, which was recorded in Bukhari. Maybe inshallah we'll talk about it maybe next week or the week after that. And at the end, Heraclius, after quizzing him, tells him that if what you tell me is true, then this is the prophet that our scriptures have predicted. Pause here. There is no prediction in the current New Testament. So there must have been scriptures that are hidden from the public. And you know there's theories in the Vatican and the Gospel of Barnabas. Allah knows all of this stuff, But clearly, Heraclius has access to scriptures that the rest of the Christians don't have. And of course this makes complete sense because he's the Emperor of Rome. And to this day, by the way, the Vatican Library has books that are unpublished and in secret, whatnot. And so Heraclius says, this is the prophet that has been predicted, and I knew he was coming, but it never occurred that he would be from your race. I thought he would come from the Jews. It never occurred that he would be from your race. I didn't think he'd come from the Arabs. And Heraclius wrote to his confidant, who was a bishop, one of the highest bishops, but we don't know his name, unfortunately, or else I wish we could look him up. We don't know his name. It just says he wrote to one of the bishops of Rome, who was on the same wavelength as him. And the bishop confirmed, yes, he meets all of the signs. Yet Heraclius did not accept Islam, because he realized if he accepted Islam, then he'd have to give up being the emperor. And when you're the most powerful man on earth, then it's too tempting. And Heraclius refused to accept Islam because he could not give up being the emperor of Rome in order to submit himself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and therefore he died upon his faith.